Our next speaker has been involved with numerous ERP solutions all throughout his career. He is well versed in identifying growth opportunities that target consulting projects related to ERP. At present, he is the Solution and Delivery Director of ITG Malaysia. Let us all welcome Mr. Davinder Singh.
Thank you very much, Meryl, and good morning again to everyone. So my name is Davinder, and we're going to be looking at Oracle NetSuite today. I have a monitor off to my side, so I'm going to be gesturing this way. But let's just have a quick look in terms of what we have prepared for you today. So I think we're going to jump into a solution demo, but before we do this, let's try to understand how Oracle NetSuite is set up. Now, Oracle NetSuite is going to be obviously has that blueprint for growth. So you're going to be addressing your visibility in terms of your data. You're going to be looking at controlling the information that you have within Oracle NetSuite, and also the agility to actually make changes as things happen in real time or as close to as real time as possible. Now, in order to accomplish the visibility, control, and agility, we're going to then now jump into Oracle NetSuite to see how it's going to help us. Now, first things first is that we're going to look at roles within Oracle NetSuite. And what really are roles? Now, roles are basically roles that have been defined for your users, and you may have a specific role, for example, for finance. You may have a specific role for sales, for purchasing, and inventory. So when users log on to the platform, what they're going to get is that they're going to get roles that are defined within a certain category, or in this case, for example, their dashboards and their access, and also their functionality. So you're going to see, for example, an administrator with all roles, or a sales opportunity person, or even a procurement person. So different roles will essentially give you access to different functionalities within Oracle NetSuite. So I'm going to log on to Oracle NetSuite, and this is my login page. And what I've done is that if you look at my right-hand corner, I've logged on as a CFO. So Suite Success, financials first. So this is my demo environment for Suite Success. And I have a few roles that have been assigned to me. I have my administrator role, accounting manager, CFO, etc. And the role that we're looking at right now is basically my CFO role. So as a CFO, when I log on, Oracle NetSuite gives me my dashboards that's actually made out of portlets. So I have my reminder portlets, I have my subsidiary navigator if I have more than one company. I can define KPIs if I need to as well. And I can also look at my key performance indicators in terms of my financial figures and so forth. So it's a little bit like the share market. You see sales gone down by 99%, which is not so good. Bank balances haven't changed, not too bad. Payables haven't moved. And we can actually look at comparisonal data as well. So we can look at current data versus previous. And in terms of these two metrics, this month versus last month, we are able to actually edit that and configure it within that portlet itself via setup. So we can actually define these values. And as I continue to scroll, we're going to be able to see additional information that is being presented. And here we've got a custom ITG portlet where we're looking for invoices that are broken down by 30 days. So anything, I believe anything 60 days and below is green. Anything 60 days and above is going to turn yellow. And after that, once you hit 90 days, it highlights in yellow, orange. Now, of course, this is just a case study, an example of how you can actually make use of personalizing the dashboards to make sure that you're able to actually gain access to more details. Now, you may have heard Oracle NetSuite being a browser-based, web-based solution. So it actually supports multiple solutions. So we can actually quickly do a quick test. We're going to go to Tools, Developer Tools, and we're actually able to load it into multiple devices. So I can actually load it into an iPad, and we can look at iPad responsiveness. So we get the iPad functionality. We can actually turn it into a landscape mode. And everything else is still functional because you can actually still access the data that you need. You can actually still look at the results as well. So I thought it would be pretty cool to have a look at it in a mobile device. Now, within this dashboard functionality, we can look at reminders, as I mentioned earlier on. So these reminders can be configured and set up, but do take note that since it's a browser base, we can always just right click and open data into a new tab. So here I've got a custom reminder that reminds me for any invoice that's above 30 days and in total $50,000. So when we look at that data, we get a grid view of information. So I have my number of days overdue, which is quite handy for us to look at, my actual invoice itself, and of course the customers. Now, depending on the role that I have, and of course the authorization assigned, then we should be able to actually also drill down either into the customer or directly into the invoice if required. So these are again functionalities that are controlled via the roles that we've just spoken about as well. So let's go back to the main dashboard. And here, as I mentioned, we've got KPIs. We can actually look at the total revenue against a target. So, it's almost half of the year, but we've already done about 2.2 million and we have 3.2 million in total to go. So that's not too bad. We're halfway there. In terms of expenses, we can actually look at other fields, but we can look at expenses as well. And if we have any other values, we can actually also put it into a trend, into an analysis, and we can actually look at it further. But what I'm interested in sharing in today's Suite Success session would be, let's have a look at our KPI indicators for my total sales and my total revenue. So what I can do is that over the total revenue, I'm able to right click and open it into a new tab. So you notice that NetSuite populates it into a browser tab. And I want to have a look at my income statement or my profit and loss. So here I have my profit and loss, and I can actually show it from a consolidated organizational view, or I can actually look at it per individual subsidiary if I have those subsidiaries. And of course, I don't have any data here, that's fine. We can also show that in a columnar manner. So if I show it by subsidiary, by columns, so what NetSuite goes in and do is that it's actually able to present that data within a required amount of period. So I'll just change my period. So I'm going to have more data here. Yep. And you're going to be able to actually see that breakdown accordingly. So if I go to consolidated view and refresh, I'll get multiple columns, right? So I have my first company, my second company, my third, and so forth. So this is going to be helpful for people who analyze information and data. And of course, we still have the ability to export to Excel. We have the ability to email it out if you need to use an email functionality. One thing to take note is that when you send it out as an email, it's not only for users of Oracle NetSuite, you can define additional users as well. So if you have business owners, you have shareholders that are not part of NetSuite, then you're actually able to send these emails out accordingly. And I'm sure some people will be wondering, can we schedule that report as well? So yes, we have the ability to schedule that report, and we can define if that report is actually being generated, let's say end of Friday, and it's then done recurringly. So we are able to actually do that in NetSuite. So I'm just going to cancel this, and let's go back to quickly look at export to Excel. So I'll export my income statement or my profit and loss into Excel. Let's pop open Excel. And since I have a shared window, I'm going to drag it across. So here, what we get is that we get the data in Excel. So if I enable editing, here you're going to start to notice that in Excel, it's a case of what you see, what you get. So whatever that you see structurally within Oracle NetSuite is defined accordingly within Excel. And if you're spending a lot of time analyzing data in Excel, you'll notice that you may want to do a column sum in real time. So when you select the fields, Oracle NetSuite maintains it in currency. So it allows you to look at the column sum. So that's going to help you quite a bit. The other thing you'll also notice is that Oracle NetSuite inherits the formulas within Excel. So if we wanted to do a formularized value, you'll notice that Excel still has it. So if I wanted to do a what if, what I can do is that I can actually just come down to, let's say, for example, travel and entertainment. I can actually insert a new row. And let's say, for example, compliance, travel, and I can put in a value. So let's say it's going to cost us $60,000 to travel during the pandemic. And when I change that, you notice that my net profit, net loss adjusts itself accordingly. And of course, if we change this figure one more time, right, numbers change as well. So this is actually going to be quite key when you do analysis within Oracle NetSuite and also using Excel. So I'll just go back to my main dashboard. So this is my main dashboard again. So we've just got a quick look and feel in terms of how Oracle NetSuite works. So let's go back to the presentation that we had originally. We may not have enough time to look at the entire functionality, but we should be able to actually look at two key areas. So the first area is the leading practice of order to cash, sometimes also called sales. So normally in a sales process, you'll create a sales order, you will verify that sales order, you will do a pick pack ship, which is part of inventory management. So this is where once you've ordered an item or the customer has ordered an item, then you pick that item, you pack the item, you ship it out or deliver it to your customer. You invoice your customer. Once the customer processes that, you can actually accept payments or you can actually look at the aging as well. So throughout this entire process in Oracle NetSuite, you will be able to monitor, analyze, and also look at alerts for that specific customer. So let's jump into Oracle NetSuite. So what we can do, if you're going to look at my customers, my vendors, I can actually go to customer and we can actually have a look at the customer overview. So I'm going to pull up customer overview, and also to save some time, I'm going to pull up the vendor overview for next, and I'll just close a few slides. Let's have a look at this. So here's my customer overview, and I can actually look at, for example, top 5 customers by profitability. So IT group, doing a lot of business here. We can look at our new customers. We can look at orders by balance. So this is a control dashboard that shows me everything I need to know about my new customers. So I can actually look at the trend line analysis. I can look at my additional customers that we have within the system itself. And if need be, we can actually look at the total orders and transactional data within the customer itself. So this should give us an idea of how best for us to actually manage customer master as well as the sales transaction or the order to cash process. Now, maybe during the breakout session, we should be able to actually take this into more detail if need be. But the next slide, moving on from order to cash, is going to be what we call procure to pay. And again, sometimes this is referred to as purchasing. So for purchasing, somewhat similar to what we've seen for order to cash, we're going to see purchase orders that are entered through Oracle NetSuite. Now, if you need to do approvals, you can do approvals within the system itself. And electronically, Oracle NetSuite sends out an email for approvals. That email will have to be approved or electronically approved through the system. And then once that's approved, you can then do what we call the receiving of the purchase order. So this is where the supplier's delivery truck pulls up to your warehouse or your location, and you actually then do the receiving. So once you've received, we will then process the vendor bill or the supplier invoice in some sense. If there are some finance users here, you may refer this to as, for example, an AP invoice, accounts payable. So once you've got that vendor bill, of course, we'll have to pay that vendor bill. We'll review the aging of our suppliers, and we can continue to monitor, analyze, and look at alerts if there are any alerts within the system itself. So I've gone ahead and opened the vendor dashboards that I have. So I can actually look at my vendors in terms of my spend analysis. So I can actually look at where we're spending our funds. We can actually look at the total payable index in terms of our KPI. So we can actually see it hasn't really changed. So it's pretty good. And in terms of vendor performance, we can actually look at the total number of purchase orders so far, how many receipts, how many bills and returns. Now do take note, I think one of the key monitoring tools that you have within NetSuite will be trying to identify accurately the number of customer returns. And I think also important, equally important, will be the vendor returns, because that's going to set the precedence in terms of managing vendors within Oracle NetSuite. So, yep, as you can actually see, I have a big picture in terms of transactions that are happening. I can also look at my vendor aging if I need to. So I'll just pull up vendor aging here. And we'll be able to actually look at this in more detail as we continue moving forward within Oracle NetSuite itself. So here's a quick snapshot of the aging. So I've got my vendors on my left, and of course I can expand. Do take note, even though it is Suite Success, it is a rollout that is actually packaged together, but you can still go ahead and further customize certain number of reports if you choose to do so. All right. So here's the same information that we've seen. And I think, again, being mindful of the time that we have, what I'll do is that I'll wrap up the presentation for now in Oracle NetSuite. and we'll probably take additional questions as we move forward. So for now, thank you very much, and we'll move on to the next session. Meryl, thank you so much again.